Welcome to Personal Finance Signals Atlas. In this explainer, we map the hidden forces that really drive our financial outcomes. Today, we're going to dissect a powerful and honestly an often ignored force that quietly decides who builds real wealth and who, well, stays fragile. So let's start with a puzzle. It's a paradox that a lot of successful people feel deep down that can't quite name. Why is it that a high income, something we all strive for, so often doesn't lead to real, durable financial security? How can so many smart, capable people earn so well, yet still feel anxious or even stuck? The answer here isn't found in another budgeting app or some hot stock tip. Not at all. It's about understanding a fundamental law of how money actually behaves over time. You can think of it like a kind of financial physics that's always at play, whether we notice it or not. Okay, so the signal we're tracking today is a force I like to call financial gravity. It's this invisible, constant pressure that's either pulling you towards security or, frankly, holding you right where you are. And believe me, it shapes every single financial outcome you will ever experience. So what exactly is financial gravity? Well, think of it like this. It's the force that takes your small, everyday, repeated actions, the good and the bad, and just relentlessly magnifies their consequences over the long haul. It's really the engine behind compounding. And this is absolutely crucial to get. This is the core principle. This force does not care one bit about the size or the brilliance of your actions in a single moment. It only, and I mean only, rewards what is done persistently, again and again and again. Okay, so that's the signal. But how does it actually show up in the real world? Well, it creates a very distinct pattern. And we can see that pattern by looking at three, let's call them hidden rules that govern how this whole force operates. So here they are, the rules of the system. First, this idea that tiny, seemingly insignificant gains eventually snowball into something unstoppable. Second, that just simple, boring consistency will always outperform complex brilliance. And third, why the first few years of anything have an almost unfair advantage. This quote just nails the central deception of this entire process. We so often give up on the very things that would lead to our success because, in the beginning, they just feel weak. As it says here, compounding doesn't look powerful until it's irreversible. And by the time its power is obvious to everyone, it's way too late to stop it. Right, let's get into the mechanism and see just how this thing builds. We're going to look at the underlying drivers to really understand why this system favors time so much more than it does talent or intensity. Which leads us straight to our second rule: consistency beats brilliance. Look, we are so drawn to the idea of the clever move, right? That one optimal decision. But financial gravity doesn't amplify what's optimal. It amplifies what is repeated. This system punishes inconsistency, those breaks in the chain, all that friction from stopping and starting, way more than it punishes a few mediocre decisions. Unbroken presence, that's the goal. And this slide, wow, this just illustrates our third rule perfectly. The early years matter most. Just look at these two paths. Path A starts early with these small, almost trivial contributions. Path B waits and then tries to play catch-up with much bigger contributions. And for a long time, it actually looks like B might win. But time is a multiplier you just can't fake. Path A's early momentum creates this runaway effect that late intensities simply cannot overcome. So the crucial point here, the thing to really let sink in, is this. Time is the one variable you cannot replace. You can always figure out ways to earn more or add more money later on, but you can never, ever go back and add more time to the beginning of the process. This brings us to our first rule: small gains snowball. This chart really shows the core misunderstanding. Our brains, you see, they perceive progress in a straight line. So in those early years, when the results are small, we think, this isn't working, and we give up. But the reality is the exponential system is working. It's building a critical foundation under the surface. It's only later that the results become unstoppable, long after our linear brain has already written it off. So what's the cost of misunderstanding these rules? Well, this is where we find the fragile high earner, that person who looks incredibly successful on paper but feels like they're constantly running just to stand still. Their failure to build durable wealth is almost never about a lack of intelligence or information. It's not that they don't know what compounding is. The problem is a deep misalignment between their behavior and the actual physics of the system. They're just caught in loops that work directly against financial gravity. And you see this misalignment in a few common archetypes. First there's the sprinter who truly believes they can make up for a late start with just sheer force. Then there's the optimizer, who gets so stuck looking for the perfect plan that they never actually start a simple, consistent one. And of course, the linear thinker who quits in year 3 because the results just don't look impressive enough, abandoning the whole process right before it really takes off. So if that's the cost, where's the edge? The advantage isn't a better tactic or some secret information. It's a different perception. It's about operating on a completely different clock. The fragile perspective is obsessed with variables that feel important but are actually secondary. Things like magnitude, cleverness, speed. But the resilient perspective, they understand the physics. They focus only on the primary variables that financial gravity actually rewards: persistence, consistency, and above everything else, time. And the quiet realization for those who do get it right is that this force was never personal. It was always there, just an impersonal engine humming along in the background, amplifying whatever it was fed consistently, whether they were paying attention to it or not. So, how do we actually apply this? The goal here isn't to give you a map, but to give you a lens, a new way to examine your own financial physics. So, I'll leave you with 3 questions to really think about. First, looking at your life right now, what behaviors are being relentlessly amplified by financial gravity? What will grow for you? Second, what do you truly repeat without friction? Because that is what the system is compounding. And finally, what do you now realize you started too late? The answer to that one, it reveals what you truly value.